Hello everyone, my name is Harley. Alongside Left 4 Dead 2, Gears of War has always been my favorite game and the game I'm best at. Gears of War Open Beta had come out for a weekend and I decided to give it a shot. It's been about 7 years since Gears 5 completely polarized me and made me quit playing the entire franchise for over a year. Gears of War E-Day is somehow worse than Gears 5. Gears of War is now a dead franchise. After having played the E-Day beta, I can already tell that this is the worst Gears game that I have ever played. I am certain that it's not going to last. I have a lot of issues with what I played, but my biggest concern is that this game is not Gears of War. The Coalition has somehow outdone themselves and made a game worse than Gears 5. I can understand that this isn't a very popular opinion right now, but let me explain myself. Gears of War E-Day has removed so many features from Gears of War. In their place of all the things removed, we get sliding and jumping. The jumping I'm not too bothered by, however I don't think it's required to have its own button as you aren't jumping mid-combat since you can't shoot during it. It's almost strictly a traversal tool, which I'm fine with if it makes the maps more interesting. Bunny hopping, however, is something that needs to be completely removed from the game. I feel that there should be a big delay on consecutive jumps, especially if they want this game to feel heavy. Either way, I don't think jumping adds too much to Gears of War, but it's something I could live with. Sliding, on the other hand, I feel as if there was zero thought involved when the decision to include it was made. For the 12 or so hours I had played the beta, I used the slide maybe 3 times. There's simply not enough areas for you to slide under for the addition to be valid. In the entire beta, I only found one spot to slide under in one of the multiplayer maps. I don't understand why they're adding sliding if they're not going to go all the way and implement it into all of the maps. It feels like they added it just to add it because other games like Destiny or Call of Duty have it. If you slide into a semi-decent player in PvP, you are more than likely going to get gibbed. And if you get lucky, you might get a trade. Stopping power on slides I think is great, however there doesn't feel to be any incentive to slide, so what was the point? Sliding does feel inconsistent in PvP, however, as I've seen people zoom with it so fast you can't react, and other times it looks normal. Now I want to talk about everything that was removed just off the top of my head. Sprinting in cover was extremely helpful to cut off overcommitting players, and this has now been entirely removed. You are forced to slow walk to the opposite side of cover where you will be immediately back 8 since you can't catch up to the enemy. Chainsaw duels were removed. They were somewhat rare, although I don't see the point of not implementing it, as the scenario does happen every now and again. Meat shields are gone, which I can't really see a good reason to just up and remove since this is the dark and gritty return to form, so they say. Snub beatdown executions, and most of the executions were reduced to a simple curb stomp. I only hope that they're unlockable like in GAU 3, as the new gore system will be going to complete waste without it. Quick long throwing grenades was removed. Not exactly sure what the actual term for it is, but it was something that was in every Gears game, including Gears 5. A lot of people might not know about it, but if you throw your grenade and aim in while still in the animation, you were able to long throw it at the expense of not having much time to line it up. Mantle kick I do believe was removed. Anytime somebody jumped over my cover, nothing happened and it looked a complete chain. Although I could just be wrong and couldn't get to the trigger. Weapon swapping with teammates is gone for whatever reason. Grenade tagging walls and enemies are completely gone, which is a huge disappointment to me. If you ever smoke tagged a classic Barrett or Savage Cantus try hard in the multiplayer and got to teabag them after, you would know it was better than crack. I'm sure there's a lot more that I haven't thought of, but those are the most major ones in my head. Anyone defending the removal of these things, do you honestly think that adding sliding and jumping in their place was a good decision? It's simply not, and it needlessly limits the things each player can do. One of my biggest complaints about Gears 5 was that you couldn't take anything you learned from Gears 4 into it, whereas every previous game allowed you to learn tricks from the last game and apply it to the new one. Gears 5 totally broke that tradition, and Gears of War E-Day multiplied that problem by 10. Let me explain how I view Gears of War PvP. It is a niche game, and it is not for everyone. It is simply not something that is going to go and rival COD, Halo, and whatever else. That is the sad truth a lot of people don't seem to get. The Coalition will keep constantly changing the formula and dumbing it down over and over and over again if they think it'll get new players. Simply, all this does is piss off die-hard fans such as myself, whilst keeping those new players for a couple weeks before returning to whatever they were playing before. They tried to dumb the game down with 5 already, and nobody liked 5. They're just repeating the exact same mistake with E-Day, and nobody is calling them out for it. GAU 3 managed to get so big mainly because of the amount of content. The game was great, but the medal system alone retained so many players and kept them grinding so that they could unlock their skins or title. This is back in E-Day and I think that's great, but the game isn't good enough to keep people grinding it. At least not in PvP. There simply is no skill gap in E-Day. I got on and top scored every game other than my very first, which was my biggest complaint in Gears 5, is that anybody can pick it up and top score because it is so brain dead easy. E-Day Nash give range is so stupidly forgiving and it does not feel good. Trades are more common than ever now, there are no tricks in this game other than up A and back A, they have made the most simple Gears of War game to date, and everybody for the most part agrees that this multiplayer is straight ass. Cover does not matter in this game. Controlling the map does not matter in this game, especially not with 3-minute power weapon timers. The skill you've gotten from playing Gears does not matter in this game. Nobody is going to be playing this PvP, and I don't know who it was made for. It wasn't for classic fans. It definitely isn't working for new players, as they're all still complaining that it's a Nasher-only sweatfest, despite everything being tuned in their favor. The biggest argument I find for this rebuild of Gears is that everybody will be on the same playing field and classic fans won't be able to just get in and stomp. This is simply not true, and classic fans will beat new players every time just from experience with the weapons alone. It's a dumb take that hasn't been thought out very well, and my matches in the beta did nothing but prove that. They had things almost perfect in Gal 4, and they have done nothing but stray away from that, and it's highly disappointing. I would give anything for another Gears PvP that is like 2, 3, or even 4. But it's never going to happen, and TC doesn't want to do that. We got center screen aiming back, which, I'm sorry Gal 1 fans, it is not better than shooting from the barrel. There's a reason we left it behind in 2008 and didn't look back. Nobody wants to get shot and killed when they're literally behind you. 4v4 is another weird choice, as there were zero problems with 5v5. Make 5v5 the standard, but keep 4v4 as its own separate playlists. And for Christ's sake, up the sensitivity. On max it is far too slow, and you can't match any of the options together no matter how much you tweak it. You're forced to play with 4 different sensitivities for different actions in the game, and they're all ungodly slow. I shouldn't have to up my DPI to like 8,000 so that it plays like a normal game. Just fix the settings. Yo, is everybody ready? Right now I'm playing literally any game that was ever made. Alright, now check this out. Now I'm playing Gears of War E-Day. And please revert the Nasher to how it was in the other games. 6 shells is just trash. Nobody liked it in Gears 5, don't put it in here. Revert the reload so that it isn't shell by shell, as that makes the game feel pretty brain dead. Speaking of the reload, missing your active and jamming your gun just does not feel punishing to me anymore. This might just be placebo, but it feels like if you jam your gun, you unjam it relatively quickly. Gears of War in E-Day has completely lost its identity. The movement feels clunky and less precise than the very first game in 2006. It's as if they tried to simulate weight with the movement, when the movement feels as if it has no weight. Half the animations are stupidly quick, and the other half is at a snail's pace. There's no consistency. They nerfed strafing and wall cancelling and called it a day. Attempting to strafe makes you more stuck in place and become an easier shot, and they also made it so that you can't cancel your cover until you're directly next to it in an attempt to nerf wall bouncing. Let me explain my take on wall bouncing, as it's not very popular. I don't think wall bouncing was ever the issue. I think the issue was that they have made wall bouncing easier and easier while making the game faster and faster, leading to what happened in Gears 5. You don't even have to move your camera to wall bounce in Gears 5. The easier you make wall bouncing, the more it does become a problem. Just make wall bouncing require skill. If you mess up your wall bounce, you roll and you die. It should be on you if you mess it up, and the game shouldn't handhold you and practically perform consecutive bounces for you. Plus you have to look off of your opponent to perform wall bouncing, which makes it balanced. And this is how it works in every game other than 5. Wall bouncing isn't the end-all be-all tactic, it is the exact same as strafing, and it is countered the exact same way. Both of which they have massively nerfed in Gears of War E-Day for whatever reason. Stop catering to players who don't play or care about Gears. Build it around the people who have supported your franchise for 20 years. Gears PvP is not casual, and no matter how casual you make it, casual players are not going to play the PvP. Gears of War didn't need to adapt or add all these modern features, it needed to take all the great parts about 1, 2, 3, and 4, mash them up together, and build the best game we've ever gotten. Not rewrite the formula so that maybe some kid will get off Valorant for a week and give you $60 for a mediocre product that they'll most likely refund. It's to the point that we can't even call E-Day a Gears of War game as it feels, looks, and plays nothing like it. If you've noticed by now, I've only talked about the PvP aspect of the game so far. This is because to me, PvP is Gears of War. It's always been the most exciting part of the game for me, and it's where I spend the most of my time. That being said, the campaign from what I've seen looks fine. I really hope it's good, and I will be impressed if they somehow make a story worse than 4s and 5s. I don't really care for the 2 new characters, but I think it's great that they added 4-player co-op back and didn't require 1 player to be a cuck and play as a robot. Horde and E-Day, I have to say I'm not a fan. A lot of people are picking it up and praising it right now, but I simply don't see the appeal. There's no fortifications to build and grind out levels for. There's less enemies to shoot, and it's a huge map with absolutely atrocious performance on PC. If you're playing Siege mode, you have a few objectives all around the map with 2 different squads of 4 that you might run into, but probably won't. It feels like a walking simulator running from objective to objective sometimes. They turned Horde into a ghetto Helldivers 2, which is a game I already don't really like that much in the first place. I'm sorry, but I just don't see the appeal of this new mode, and I definitely don't see it keeping the franchise alive. I'm still interested to see how they expand upon it, but I'm much more a fan of GAL 3 Horde. I have to say, the sound design is honestly atrocious in this game. Things don't sound very clear, and you'll notice that footsteps sound like they're right next to you when they're actually across the map. In other games, it's extremely clear to tell where the enemies are coming from, but in E-Day they will just sneak up on you due to the audio feeling like it was designed by someone on meth. Boomers, for example, just do not say boom sometimes when shooting, which is a problem in other TC games too, to be fair. Guns lack a lot of punch in their audio, especially the Gnasher. I also noticed that the torque bow just doesn't seem to make the iconic sound whenever it's being charged up. I had times where I just went down without realizing I was being shot at by one. You want to know what replaced that sound? It's some weird yellow streak at the top of the screen, which is much less informative than the easily identifiable and unique sound of the torque bow charge up. The same goes for the long shot. It also has this ugly indicator, as well as the huge shine on the scope. It's pointless accessibility for a problem that no one had any issue with in the first place. There's other issues, such as the torque bow simply charging way too fast, but I figure this is getting a little long. I know somebody's gonna say it, but look, I know this is a beta, but frankly that doesn't mean shit. What we see now is essentially what we're going to launch with. They're going to patch up some bugs, polish it up, but the game itself is my issue. Launch is not going to change anything, as proven time and time again. Gears 5, Gears Reloaded, Halo Infinite, all these games come out with a beta, and on launch it is the exact same, just with more maps, modes, skins, etc. It being a beta does not excuse the game itself being mediocre. I have a lot more that I can go on about, but I just feel really devastated after having played E-Day. I already knew going into it that it wasn't going to be built for classic fans, but I had no idea that it was going to be this bad. If you want a good Gears of War experience, I suggest trying out Delta Online and Gears of War Redux, which you've been watching in the background of this video. They're both extremely polished mods, although Delta by far has the bigger player base. Hey everyone, just as I was trying to edit this down, I saw that the campaign story trailer just got released, and I had to take a look at that, of course. My main thoughts is just that the main Locust guy doesn't look very special to me compared to all the other drones. The other thing I noticed is that he's using emotion, right? And if I remember correctly, the main reason that the Locust attacked in the first place is to get away from all the lambent, so I'd say it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they're just playing with emotion like that, but what do I know, right? And also, I don't really like the writing direction. It feels very millennial GTA 5, you know, fuck this, fuck that, right? Hoping it's not like that, but it really did sound like it for a minute there. And the last thing I have to say is that it doesn't feel dark and gritty at all, not in the slightest, and I kind of felt that from the beta, and it didn't feel like a return to form like it was promised to be. And that's especially true in this trailer I'm seeing, where it feels like the entire trailer it's trying to pump you up, get you ready, right? Like E-Day, fuck yeah, right? But the original Gears of War 1 trailer, it was very sorrowful, hopeless, dreadful, right? And the E-Day trailer completely lacks all of that. It seems it's more trying to go with some hype or a moment type thing instead of Gears. But that's just my immediate thoughts on the trailer after having watched it. Anyways, back to what I was saying. If you have any disagreements or could expand on anything I talked about or didn't talk about, please leave a comment, as I'd love to read it. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you some other time.